In this class of business environment and ethical practices, we'll be talking about government policy and even changes. Governments establish many regulations and policies that guide businesses. Some rules, like minimum wages, are mandatory, while other policies may influence the business indirectly. Business need to be flexible enough to respond to changing rules and policies. This is true not only at the national level but more locally as well, as states and municipalities have their own set of rules. Indeed, there are also international treaties that can influence the way companies do business. And it is happening everywhere. And it is happening right from the beginning, or we look at the history also. Governments play a very vital role in setting up the boundaries of the businesses and also how they'll be playing their game. Government policy can influence the business, any business, in so many ways, and especially if the scale of business or the territory of business is wide, the degree of impact will be higher. It doesn't mean government policies don't affect the small players, they do, but the degree of impact is less there. The government can implement a policy that changes the social behavior in the business environment. For example, the government can levy taxes on the use of carbon based fuels and grant subsidies for businesses that use renewable energy, which is happening right now. Like diesel is being made more and more expensive for the general public. Subsidies are being given for CNG and also for upcoming electrical vehicles. The government can underwrite the development of new technology that will bring the necessary change. Imposing on a particular sector more taxes or duties than are necessary will make the investors lose interest in that sector, which is happening in the case of petrol or diesel and vehicles. Similarly, tax and duty exemptions on a particular sector trigger investment in it and may generate growth. Like, for example, Indian e-commerce. For example, a high tax rate on imported goods may encourage local production of the same goods. On the other hand, a high tax rate for raw material hampers domestic production, and in that case, people may try or may like to purchase imported goods. Government plays a vital role in ensuring political stability and political culture. Government policy will always depend on the political culture of the moment. Policy crafted in a politically stable country will be different uh, which, from the one which is formed in an unstable country. A stable political system can make business friendly decisions that promote local businesses and attract foreign investors. Like what is happening in India. Since 2014, we are seeing BJP government is there and they have taken some major steps like Make in India campaign, which calls in more and more of foreign investors. They have also liberalized certain FDI regulations. So, if the political environment is stable, there are very high chances the government will make some good decisions which will be beneficial for the businesses. Unstable systems present challenges that jeopardize the ability of the government to maintain law and order. This has a negative effect on the business environment. Just to name a few, we can take example of countries like Pakistan and certain countries in Western Asia and in Middle East, wherein the political stability has not been achieved, and as a result of which companies refrain going there. Taxation and spending is another area where the government has direct control. With its tax policy, monetary policy, and fiscal policy, government can entirely change the picture or the economic scenario in any country. Government get money to spend from taxation. Increase spending requires increasing taxes or borrowings. Any tax increase will discourage investment, especially among entrepreneurs who take the risk of starting and managing businesses. Increase in spending also eats into the limited pool of savings, less money, leaving less money for private investment. And vice versa, if the taxes are reduced, all these factors will be in favor of the individuals and the economy. Reduction in private investments shrink production of goods if it happens and services. Thus, in turn, may lead to elimination of jobs, which will further hamper the uh, consumer sentiments, and eventually it will lead to reduction in demand of goods and services. And if this entire series of events becomes a vicious cycle, it can take the economy into depression. Interest rates, since government is the one who decides all the interest rates prevailing in the market, it's maybe directly or either through the central bank of the country. So it has a good control, good command there. Government policies can influence interest rate, a rise in which increase the cost of borrowing in the business community. Higher rates also lead to decreased consumer spendings. Lower interest rate attract investment as business increase production, which is quite obvious. The government can influence interest rate in the short run by printing more money, which might eventually lead to inflation. Business do not thrive when there is high level of inflation. And this option of printing money is always there, but it is seldom opted by any good government because it has ill effects on the economy. Then comes regulations and permits. It is very important. Trade regulations, the minimum wage norms, and the requirement of permits or licenses have effects on business. For example, periodic health inspections must be carried out in all restaurants. Businesses might spend a lot of money and time to comply with regulations that ultimately prove to be ineffective and unnecessary. Fair and effective regulations, however, promote business growth. It is quite evident in the current times as well, wherein due to COVID-19, government has imposed so many restrictions and so many additional norms have been brought into existence in order to keep a check on the health conditions in the community. But businesses are suffering. Although the government, whatever they are doing, they are trying their best to prevent people from getting ill or dying. But eventually, it is not good for the businesses. Any government can uh, come up with a number of regulations and permits and all, which can prove boon or pain both for any business organization. At times, certain restrictions, like if the government is promoting the uh, domestic production unit and the government says we want to become a export oriented country rather than import dependent country, it the it is quite obvious that domestic production units or the domestic players will get a benefit here. But if the government is not concerned about it and they are happily agreeing to the imports, then in that case, domestic players won't get good part of demand, and on top of that, they'll also have to face competition from the multinational corporations, which ultimately is bad for them. Same happens in when government comes up with the idea of any permit or all. Like recently, government announced that any country which touches our country's international border, there are 7 countries of that nature. If any foreign investments is coming from there, that can't be that can't come through automatic route of FDI. Rather, it will have to be screened by the government authorities. Only then it will be allowed. So this norm in itself creates a barrier for foreign investments from these countries. Although they might invest, but again, this is something which can discourage the investment. All, on the other hand, it is beneficial for domestic players, those who are operating in those particular domain or industries, because if foreign investment is reducing, then ultimately it will give a good space to the domestic players. Another example, a very good example could be like government of India recently decided to ban so many of Chinese apps because uh, of the tussle on Indo-China border. And this particular restriction made so many apps and companies to move out of India. Move as in, at least for time being, they are not able to operate here. So government regulations have a lot of impact on the well-being of business, on the growth of business, be it export-import policy, be it labor welfare schemes, be it other regulations or legislations. Ultimately, it can have a great impact, and businesses must learn to live with this fact. Thank you.